And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Frank Tomano's our guest. Frank, local historian, very active up at the United County History Center, and continues to write his column for the Observer-Dispatch. We're talking about the Battle of Oriskany, a turning point in the Revolutionary War, because the anniversary, August 6th, is right around the corner. Frank, one of the depictions of the Battle of Oriskany, if I'm correct, is in Drums Along the Mohawk, where you see Henry Fonda and the militia marching off, and Claudette Colbert waiting for him to return. And they don't show you the battle, but they show you the march to the battle, and they show you the march coming back from the battle.
Yeah, I was kind of a little disappointed in that, and although it was a great movie, you do get a little explanation about the battle. After the battle, when Henry Fonda returns, and he wasn't wounded, but pretty tired.
Yeah.
And he explains to Claudette Colbert, he said, he mentions how it was hand-to-hand, how it was a terrible battle, neighbor against neighbor, and it was a real bloody battle. Some historians say it was the bloodiest battle of the Revolutionary War. When you say percentage of casualties on both sides, especially the American side, Herkimer had about 800 men, and about half of them were killed, wounded, captured.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was hand-to-hand combat.
One of the things, Frank, that I've always found interesting about that battle is I think it started around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and continued on until there was a tremendous thunderstorm.
Yeah, it was 10 to 3. It ended at about 3 o'clock, but in between, there was a tremendous thunderstorm about 1 o'clock, and it gave General Herkimer, a chance. Again, these were his militia. They were farm boys. I mean, they really didn't know how to fight properly, but it gave Herkimer a chance to tell his men. It took about 30 seconds to reload a musket, so he got them to shoot in pairs. He paired two together and as one shot, and then as they reloaded, the other one would shoot. And it was during that rainstorm that he was able to at least organize his men a little bit. And of course, he was wounded in the battle, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny. He really, if you read the history, as they were marching towards Fort Stanwix, and they were headed towards this ravine, they didn't realize they were going to be ambushed. Herkimer had sent messengers to Fort Stanwix, to fire a cannon shot and then send help to men to meet his militia, and together they would lift the siege. But some of Herkimer's officers wanted to go right away. Let's lift the siege, and mainly they insulted Herkimer, whose brother was a loyalist, fighting with the St. Leger group. So many of Herkimer's officers said Herkimer's delaying because he doesn't, he wants to help his brother, which was an insult. So Herkimer said, okay, and he started the march, and then they were ambushed.
Yeah.
And
the Native Americans played a big part in the Battle of Oriskany on both sides, Frank. It was first time. I guess it would be this country's first allies, the Oneidas, came in on our side, and on the other side, the British had their Native American allies.
Yeah, you're right. What was important, that it really broke the Iroquois Treaty. For almost 300 years, the Iroquois Federation, you had the Oneidas, the Senecas, the Mohawks. They were, they were allies. They stuck together. The Oneidas, mainly through the influence of the Reverend Samuel Kirkland, who was a great friend of Shenandoah, the Oneida Indian chief, decided to side with the Americans. That was a very, very, the Oneidas became the United States, the new United States' first allies. It was important that the Oneidas broke with the Iroquois and fought their brothers, the Senecas and the Mohawks, at the Battle of Oriskany. So that was very important. As many of the British forces at the battle were Herkimer's and his men neighbors. They were all came from the Mohawk Valley. They were loyalists.
Frank, one of the things that was going on while that battle was going on was that they sent troops from Fort Stanwix to raid the British encampment. That really led to the end of the battle.
It really did. Colonel Willett and 250 men, while that battle, the Battle of Oriskany was going on, raided the British forces' camp. Again, they had laid siege around the fort, especially the Indian camps. And when the Senecas and the Mohawks, who from the beginning had been told by St. Ledger, as we march through the Mohawk Valley, you're going to be spectators. Watch the British, how we fight. So the Senecas and the Mohawks didn't expect what they got at the Battle of Oriskany, where they lost, the Senecas especially, lost important chiefs, they lost many men. So Willett, when the Indians heard that Colonel Willett from Fort Stanwix had raided the Indian camps, many of the Senecas and the Mohawks left the battlefield at Oriskany and returned and said, "We've had it, we're going back to Oswego."
Mm-hmm.
So that was very, very, very important.
Yeah. There's a monument, Frank, that marks the battlefield, and it was the first really project of the United County Historical Society at the time. When we come back, we'll talk about that monument. We're talking, Frank Tomeno, we're talking about the Battle of Oriskany, August 6, 1777 was when it happened. Short break, right back.